Ladies, have you ever stopped to ask, what makes a man do more than simply notice you? What makes you live in his mind in a way he cannot easily shake? I am not speaking of a brief attraction or a temporary fascination. I mean the kind of presence that stays with him, where you are the thought that greets him in the morning, lingers with him through the day, and returns again in the silence before he falls asleep. All without you forcing, chasing, or performing. This is not about manipulation. It is not about becoming someone false or exhausting yourself with mind games. It is about understanding a truth that has existed beneath human connection for as long as people have loved. Attraction does not take root in logic. It takes root in emotional imprint. The psychology of lasting impact. Every connection we experience, whether brief or lifelong, leaves something behind. It marks us. Certain moments stay burned into memory, not because they were flawless, but because they carried emotional intensity. That is how memory works. The mind does not store human experience like a neat archive of facts. It privileges feeling over detail. You may forget exactly what someone was wearing, but you rarely forget the way their presence made you feel. Carl Jung once wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." Jung understood that relationships are not built on surfaces alone. They are shaped by emotional depth, by the unseen currents moving beneath conversation and appearance. When a man feels something real around you, joy, curiosity, admiration, even emotional tension, you leave an imprint on his mind and heart that reason alone cannot undo. Why constant validation fails. And this is where many women unknowingly weaken their own magnetism. They assume that the more available they are, the faster they reply, the more they agree, and the more approval they give, the more valuable they will become in a man's eyes. But here is the difficult truth. The human mind responds to contrast, not monotony. Predictability creates comfort, but comfort without depth or variation rarely creates desire. If every interaction with you feels exactly the same, his mind will eventually file you under known territory. And what's known doesn't require mental energy to think about. Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." This doesn't mean you need to create unnecessary drama, but it does mean that relationships grow when there is emotional variety, moments of comfort and moments of challenge, peaks and valleys that keep both people awake to each other. Emotional contrast, the hidden driver of desire. Think about the people you've never forgotten. Were they perfectly agreeable? Probably not. Instead, they were dynamic, sometimes making you laugh, sometimes making you think, sometimes even irritating you, yet always making you feel. This emotional contrast is what turns ordinary attraction into an obsession. It's why a man might spend hours replaying your words, tone and expressions in his mind long after you've left. Without contrast, attraction flatlines. And once attraction flatlines, obsession never begins. How to create emotional resonance without manipulation. Let's get practical. Creating emotional resonance is not about withholding affection to make him chase, playing cold to spark fear, starting fights just to create drama. That's manipulation, and it backfires. Instead, it's about allowing your full, authentic self to show. 1. If something excites you, show it. Share your passion for the book you're reading, the project you're working on, or the trip you're planning. Enthusiasm is contagious. 2. If something bothers you, don't hide it out of fear. Express it calmly, but honestly. Real emotional connection isn't built on endless agreement. It's built on truth. 3. If you disagree with him, challenge him respectfully. Men don't respect the yes woman. They respect someone who can stand on her own ground while still being open to understanding his. When you're authentic, you naturally create variety. Moments of warmth, moments of playfulness, moments of challenge. And this variety is what keeps his mind hooked. Surprise, the brain's curiosity trigger. The human brain is wired to respond to novelty. Something unexpected lights up the reward centers in the mind, creating curiosity. If every conversation, every date, and every interaction with you is predictable, his mind categorizes you as known. But the moment you introduce a hint of unpredictability, a spontaneous invitation, a thought-provoking question, a surprising perspective, you become a puzzle his brain wants to solve. Jung observed, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Surprise is that spark. It transforms the interaction from casual to memorable, from forgettable to unforgettable. Another powerful driver of mental fixation is challenge. Humans don't value what they don't have to work for. If he feels he's already figured you out, his curiosity naturally fades. This doesn't mean playing hard to get in a fake way. It means living as a layered, evolving person. Someone with dreams, boundaries, and a rich inner world he can't fully access on day one. When he senses there's more to discover about you, his brain will keep returning to the question, who is she, really? And that question, that unresolved mystery, is the seed of obsession. Why depth beats appearance every time. Here's a truth many people overlook. While physical attraction might spark initial interest, it's the emotional connection that keeps someone thinking about you. Looks fade into familiarity, but the feeling you give someone stays vivid. Jung believed that relationships were not just between two conscious selves, but between two unconscious worlds. That's why a deep connection feels like you've known someone far longer than you have. You're interacting on a level below logic. The first step: be more than a comfort zone. If you want to be unforgettable, you must be more than a source of comfort. Comfort is beautiful, but comfort alone breeds complacency. You must also be a source of inspiration, curiosity, and emotional stimulation. A man will think about you when you inspire him to dream bigger. You make him feel things he doesn't feel anywhere else. You challenge his thinking and open his mind. You leave just enough mystery that he wants to know more. In essence, you become a world within yourself, a world he wants to keep exploring. We explored how emotional imprint, contrast, and mystery can plant you firmly in a man's mind. Now we're moving deeper into the energy you bring into his life. Because attraction isn't just about how you look or what you say. It's about how you make someone feel when they're with you. And just as importantly, how they feel when they think about you. In your absence. Why men gravitate toward positive energy. We often underestimate how heavy life feels for men, even when they don't talk about it. Pressure to perform, competition at work, responsibilities that pile up quietly, the expectation to handle it without showing weakness. Jung once noted, "Every man carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is." Men often hide that shadow, their stress, self-doubt, or exhaustion, because they're conditioned to. But that shadow doesn't disappear. It weighs on them. And when they meet someone whose presence makes that weight feel lighter, not because she takes it away, but because she makes the world feel different, they crave it. This craving is not shallow. It's an instinctive pull toward rejuvenation. The same way we seek sunlight after days of rain. The myth of endless agreement. Many women confuse positive energy with agreeing with everything, or always being cheerful. That's not positivity. That's performance. And men can feel the difference. True positivity is about authentic emotional strength. It's the ability to keep your center, even when life shakes you. It's radiating a grounded sense of self that tells him you're safe to exhale here. This is not chaos. This is peace. That doesn't mean avoiding serious conversations or hard truths. In fact, a woman who can speak truth without bitterness often has more impact than one who hides everything behind a smile. Confidence without performance. There's a particular kind of magnetism in a woman who knows her worth. Not because she's trying to convince anyone, but because she simply lives it. Jung put it this way: the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. When you've done that work, the work of truly knowing yourself, respecting your boundaries, and not needing external approval to feel valid, your confidence is felt before you even speak. Men are drawn to this in the same way they're drawn to adventure, challenge, and beauty. It's not the loudness of the confidence, but the calm certainty of it. Relief versus escape. Let's be clear. Being his source of positivity does not mean being his escape from reality. That's temporary and unsustainable. What he really seeks, often unconsciously, is relief that restores him, not relief that distracts him. Escape numbs. Relief heals. You create that healing by being present, engaged, and emotionally steady. The kind of person who can listen without judgment, share without fear, and laugh without restraint. This is why men remember women who make them feel more alive, rather than just entertained. Entertainment fades. Aliveness lingers. The power of playfulness. Playfulness is often underestimated in attraction. People think of it as childish or unserious, but psychologically, it's one of the most powerful ways to bond. Playfulness disrupts stress. It snaps the mind out of overthinking. It releases dopamine, the brain's feel-good chemical. And once his brain associates those dopamine surges with you, he'll want more. Examples: a spontaneous text that makes him laugh mid-meeting. A playful challenge over something small. I bet I can make a better coffee than you. A lighthearted twist in the middle of a tense moment. You don't have to be a comedian. You just have to be present enough to find moments to lighten the mood. Positivity with boundaries. A magnetic presence isn't about endless giving. In fact, if you give too much without boundaries, you drain yourself, and resentment replaces attraction. Healthy positivity means you can uplift someone without carrying their emotional burdens for them. You can offer support without losing yourself in the process. You know when to step in and when to step back. Men respect a woman who can say, "I care for you, but I'm not going to lose myself to fix what only you can fix." That balance is rare, and rarity fuels desire. How positivity makes you unforgettable. When a man associates you with emotional uplift, the sense that his shoulders drop when you walk in, that his mind feels clearer after a conversation with you, he will unconsciously seek that energy again. Here's the psychology. The brain is wired to return to what gives it relief and meaning. Once his nervous system links you with that feeling, his thoughts will wander back to you even when you're apart. But here's the secret. You can't fake this energy. Forced cheerfulness repels because it feels false. You can't maintain it if you're running on empty. You can't offer it without also offering your real self, shadows included. Authenticity, the true anchor. Jung famously said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." When you show up as the fullest version of yourself, confident yet humble, strong yet open, playful yet grounded. You become an anchor in a man's life, not because you cater to him, but because you embody something steady, rare, and magnetic. In a chaotic world, the anchor is unforgettable. Real-life application. Let's say you're dating someone who's been having a rough week at work. You could lecture him about stress management. Logical but cold. Avoid him until he's back to normal. Creates distance. Or invite him for an impromptu walk. Bring his favorite snack and listen without trying to fix everything. That last option blends presence, playfulness, and emotional steadiness. The kind of combination that plants you firmly in his emotional memory. If you want a man to think about you nonstop, you don't need to be in constant contact or performing for his approval. You need to become the kind of presence that leaves him feeling more alive, more grounded, more himself. When you do that authentically, when you make his life lighter without losing your own center, you become irreplaceable. And once a man believes no one else makes him feel that way, his mind won't just drift to you. It will live there. We have explored how to become a source of emotional rejuvenation. The presence that leaves a man feeling more alive, grounded, and inspired. Now we go deeper into a truth that most modern dating advice overlooks. Men, whether they admit it or not, have a fundamental need to feel significant in the life of the woman they love. This isn't just romantic poetry or outdated gender expectation. It's rooted in evolutionary psychology and human nature. Across human history, survival depended on cooperation. Men often took on roles of protection and provision, while women created and maintained the heart of the community. While our society has evolved beyond rigid gender roles, certain instincts are still wired into the male psyche. And one of the deepest is this. A man feels most bonded to a woman when he believes he makes a meaningful difference in her life. Carl Jung understood these instinctual forces when he said, "Man cannot stand a meaningless life." When a man's efforts, care, or presence are seen as valuable, it gives him purpose. Without that sense of purpose, even the most loving relationship can begin to feel hollow. Why independence sometimes backfires. Let's be clear. Independence is essential. A woman who can stand on her own is magnetic. But there's a subtle trap. If your independence is paired with a refusal to ever let a man contribute to your life, he may unconsciously feel unnecessary. This doesn't mean becoming dependent or pretending to be helpless. That's manipulation. It means allowing space for him to step into his natural drive to be useful, supportive, and significant. The role of invitation. The easiest way to activate this instinct is through invitation. Invitation is not demand. It's not, "You need to do this for me." It's asking for his opinion because you respect his perspective. Letting him help with something you could do yourself simply because it's meaningful for him to do it. Involving him in decisions that matter to you so he feels part of your world. Example. Instead of struggling silently to change the tire yourself just to prove you can, you might say, "I know I could do this, but I'd feel better if you helped me out." That's not weakness. That's connection. Genuine appreciation. Here's where many people miss the mark. When a man contributes, whether it's physical help, emotional support, or problem solving, you must acknowledge it genuinely. Not with hollow flattery, but with specific gratitude. Instead of thanks, say, "That made my day so much easier. It means a lot that you took the time to do that. You have no idea how much that helped me breathe today." When his actions are tied to your real feelings, his brain links you with the deep satisfaction of making a difference. That bond is incredibly hard to break. The trap of self-sufficiency walls. Many women unintentionally block connection by living behind an invisible wall of total self-sufficiency. They think, if I let him help, I'll seem weak. But the truth is, allowing him in doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. True strength is knowing when to open up. Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." If you never allow the reaction, the exchange where he gets to matter to you, you rob the relationship of one of its most bonding forces. Earning versus being handed a place in your life. Men value what they have to earn. If you hand him your time, energy, and commitment without giving him the opportunity to invest in you, he won't feel the same pride in keeping it. This doesn't mean playing games or creating artificial challenges. It means having boundaries, letting him see that you have standards for how you're treated, showing him that his actions have meaning and impact on you. When a man earns his place in your life through consistent effort and sees that effort valued, his attachment deepens. Why significance fuels obsession? When a man feels you are better off because of his presence, it touches something primal. His brain says, I make her life richer. I matter to her. That I matter feeling is addictive because it connects to the deepest human need, the need for meaning. Without it, he might like you, admire you, even enjoy you, but you'll never occupy his mind the way you could. With it, you become home. Practical ways to awaken this instinct. Here are small, non-manipulative ways to let him feel significant. 1. Ask for input on things you value. I'm deciding between two big career options. I'd love to hear your thoughts. 2. Allow even when you don't need it. Can you reach that for me? You're taller. 3. Celebrate his wins as if they're your own. I'm so proud of how you handled that. 4. Acknowledge effort, not just results. I noticed how much work you put in. That means a lot. Avoiding the pitfalls. There's a difference between allowing him to feel needed and making him your emotional crutch. If you rely on him for everything, the relationship becomes one-sided and exhausting. If you rely on him for nothing, the relationship becomes emotionally flat. The sweet spot. You are capable on your own. You choose to let him contribute. That choice, not necessity, is what makes him feel valued. When he feels useless, men rarely articulate it. But when they feel useless in a relationship, it often leads to emotional withdrawal, seeking significance elsewhere. Work, hobbies, other connections, decreased attraction. If you've ever felt a man pulling away for no reason, it's worth asking, has he stopped feeling like he makes a difference in your life? Carl Jung taught that meaning and purpose are essential for human fulfillment. He wrote, "As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being." When you let a man kindle that light in your life, not because you can't light it yourself, but because it means more to do it together, you give him a role that feeds his soul. And when his soul is fed in your presence, he will keep returning to that presence in thought and in reality. A man's obsession isn't built through constant access or flattery. It's built through meaning. When he feels his actions matter to you, that he is woven into your world in a way that no one else can replicate, you become unforgettable. We talked about awakening a man's instinct to feel significant in your life, how meaning fuels attachment. Now we turn to something that seems counterintuitive, but is just as essential. Space. Because the truth is, no matter how much he enjoys your presence, if he never has the chance to miss you, his attraction will eventually lose its edge. The psychology of scarcity. Human beings are wired to assign more value to what is rare or not immediately accessible. This isn't cynicism. It's how our brains evolved. In nature, things that were harder to obtain were often more valuable for survival. The same applies to relationships. If your time, attention, and presence are given in unlimited supply from the very start, his brain categorizes you as always available. And what's always available fades into the background. Carl Jung once said, "The pendulum of the mind oscillates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong." Desire works like that pendulum. It swings between presence and absence. Without the swing, there's no movement, no longing, the trap of constant contact. Modern dating culture encourages hyperconnection, instant messaging all day, video calls every evening, sharing your every move on social media. While this might feel like closeness, it can actually flatten attraction. When there's no room for curiosity or wondering what the other person is doing, the mind stops reaching for them. That reach, the mental stretching towards someone, is what creates longing. Why distance feeds desire? Think about a time you were waiting for something exciting, a vacation, a big event, even a special meal. The anticipation itself was part of the pleasure. Your mind built stories, imagined possibilities, heightened the eventual experience. Relationships work the same way. If you create natural pauses in contact, not as a manipulation, but because you have a fulfilling life beyond him, you give his mind space to build. Anticipation. Controlled availability versus playing games. There's a dangerous misconception that to make someone want you, you should ignore them or play hard to get in a calculated way. Here's the difference. Controlled availability. You genuinely have other commitments, passions, and priorities. You aren't always immediately reachable because you're living a full life. Playing games, you deliberately delay responses or fabricate busyness to provoke insecurity. One builds respect and intrigue. The other breeds mistrust. Why your own life is the best magnet. When you have a world outside the relationship, friends, hobbies, career goals, creative pursuits, you create an aura of self-sufficiency and depth. A man who sees you as a woman with her own thriving ecosystem will never see you as taken for granted. Jung emphasized the importance of individuation, becoming a whole, distinct person. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. That becoming doesn't stop when you meet someone. In fact, continuing to evolve while in a relationship is what keeps it alive. The element of mystery. Mystery doesn't mean being secretive or deceptive. It means there are parts of your life, personality, and thoughts he can discover over time, not all at once. If he knows exactly what you're doing, thinking and feeling every moment, there's nothing left to uncover. If he has space to wonder about you, he'll keep turning you over in his mind. The contrast principle. Absence is only powerful when paired with meaningful presence. If every interaction with you is shallow, distance will just feel like relief. But if your time together is rich, engaging, and emotionally resonant, then even short separations will be felt deeply. Think of it like music. The notes matter, but so do the pauses between them. Without pauses, there's just noise. With pauses, there's rhythm, and rhythm makes people move. Practical ways to create healthy space. 1. Keep your personal routines. Don't drop your workout, hobbies, or social plans every time he's free. 2. Let conversations breathe. You don't need to fill every silence with messages or updates. 3. Plan time apart intentionally. Even in committed relationships, schedule separate activities or solo adventures. 4. Respond naturally, not instantly. If you're genuinely busy, don't stop your life to reply right away. And don't pretend to be busy just to delay. When he starts reaching, here's the magic. When you stop saturating his world with your presence, his brain will naturally start to reach for you. He'll initiate more conversations, suggest plans, mention that he misses you, sometimes without realizing it. That reaching is desire in action. And desire only grows when fed the right balance of presence and absence. The danger of overcompensation. Sometimes when women sense a man pulling away, they respond by increasing contact. More texts, more calls, more availability. This often accelerates the drift because it removes the space needed for longing to return. Jung wrote, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." In relationships, this means you can't have the height of desire without weathering moments of absence. You must let the roots of longing grow in that space. Space builds respect. A man who sees that you respect your own time and boundaries will respect you more. A man who sees that you'll drop everything at his convenience may enjoy the ease, but he won't feel the same urgency to keep you. Space says, "I am here, but I am also my own person." That statement is powerful, and it's what keeps attraction alive in the long term. Scarcity creates value, not because you're withholding, but because you're reminding him that you are a woman with a full, vibrant life. When you pair meaningful, emotionally rich presence with intentional, natural absence, you give him the gift of longing. And longing is the engine of obsession. So here we are. We've walked through the first 4 parts. 1. Emotional imprint, leaving feelings that stick. 2. Magnetic positivity, energy that lifts him. 3. Significance, letting him feel important. 4. Healthy space, giving room for longing to grow. Now we put it all together. This is where it becomes a lifestyle. Not tricks, not games, but a way of showing up in the world that makes you impossible to forget. Step 1. Be the full spectrum woman. Here's what most people do wrong. They pick one safe version of themselves and show only that. They stay predictable. They hide certain sides because they're scared it might turn him off. But here's the truth. It's the range of your personality that keeps someone hooked. If you're always sweet, he stops noticing it. If you're always serious, he gets bored. If you're always lighthearted, he might not see your depth. The key is to be multidimensional. Playful one moment, thoughtful the next. Soft and open when it matters, firm and grounded when it's needed. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." That's the real power here. Showing up as the entire you, not the edited version. When you reveal the full spectrum, you keep his mind engaged. He doesn't feel like he's figured you out in 2 weeks. And curiosity is one of the most addictive emotions the brain knows. Step 2. Anchor him in a feeling. People remember feelings more than faces, words, or even moments. You might forget what someone said, but you'll never forget how they made you feel. Your goal is simple. Every time he's with you, connect him to emotions that feel rare in his life. Calm when the world is chaotic. Inspiration when he's feeling stuck. Playfulness when life feels heavy. When you become the person who triggers those emotions, his brain starts linking you to relief, energy, and renewal. Even when you're not around, his mind will start reaching for that feeling. And you are the source. Jung put it beautifully. The meeting of 2 personalities is like the contact of 2 chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Be the reaction that transforms him in ways he can't forget. Step 3. Let him matter. This is one of the most overlooked secrets in attraction. Yes, independence is important. Yes, you can handle life on your own. But men have a deep, ancient instinct to protect, provide, and contribute. When you never let him step into that role, not even in small ways, you're shutting down one of his strongest bonding mechanisms. This doesn't mean pretending to be helpless. It's not manipulation. It's about creating space for him to add value to your life. It could be as small as asking for help reaching something high on the shelf, or as significant as seeking his input on a big decision. The key when he does step up, genuinely appreciate it. Not empty flattery, but real acknowledgement. I love how you handled that. Or, that made a difference for me. When a man feels his presence changes your life for the better, it triggers something deep in him, a need to keep investing in you. And the more he invests, the more he thinks about you. Step 4. Keep your own world alive. You've probably heard this before, but let's make it practical. Your life outside the relationship isn't just nice to have. It's part of what makes you magnetic. If you drop your passions, hobbies, and friendships the moment he shows up, you stop being the person he was drawn to in the first place. Men are intrigued by women who have their own mission, their own adventures, their own sources of fulfillment. When you keep living fully, pursuing goals, growing skills, connecting with your people, you do two powerful things. 1. You show him that your happiness doesn't depend entirely on him. 2. You create space for him to miss you. That space matters more than most people realize. Without space, longing cannot breathe. And longing is what keeps desire alive. Step 5. Make the moments you share matter. Quality will always outweigh quantity. It is not about being together every minute. It is about the emotional trace you leave behind when you are. Ask the kinds of questions no one else thinks to ask. Tell the strange, beautiful stories only you could tell. Build small rituals, private jokes, and little moments that belong only to the two of you. Those become emotional anchors in his mind. And when you are apart, he returns to them, smiling at the memory, wanting more. Step 6. Avoid the habits that destroy attraction. And here is an important warning. There are 3 things that drain attraction faster than almost anything else. Being constantly available, people-pleasing just to keep him satisfied, and allowing negativity to define your energy. Why? Because those habits erase mystery, dull your individuality, and make the connection feel heavy instead of alive. Attraction needs room. It needs contrast. It needs energy. Step 7. Remember, this is not a game. Nothing we have discussed is about manipulation. It is not about acting like someone you are not. It is about becoming deeply rooted in your own value and showing up in a way that is naturally compelling. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And when you live from that truth, you do not have to force anyone to think about you. Their mind goes there on its own because your presence becomes unforgettable. Practice these steps consistently, and you will begin to notice something powerful. You stop chasing attention because the right people begin offering it freely. You become the kind of presence that feels rare, and what is rare is deeply attractive. When emotional impact, uplifting energy, genuine significance, and healthy space come together, you do not just capture attention, you keep it. That is when his mind stops wandering toward everything else and starts returning to you again and again. If you enjoyed this series, press like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you do not miss the next video. And remember, do not just hope to be remembered. Become impossible to forget.